So that was, Kyle just basically gave my first part of the talk, which was I was looking at how textbook costs were causing problems for my students in Bio 105, the introductory biology class, which is, big class for science majors, and traditionally it's a class where students do not do very well. And I'd like to ask the students at the end of the semester during the final exam a question that I can give them a little extra credit on. And one semester I asked them, what do you think about ebooks? Because I was hearing rumblings about textbooks being really expensive, and I was really surprised. This was a couple of years ago, but probably about 2/3 of the students said, absolutely not, we like real books. I don't want to do an ebook that's yucky, blah. And so I thought, okay, fine. And a couple semesters later, I asked a follow-up question to another class, and I said, are you going to keep your textbook, and why or why not? And as surprised as I was about the students not wanting the ebooks, because of course, they were all born with a computer attached to their umbilical cord, right? They love computers. I was probably very similar to the statistics we just saw. Probably at least 2/3 of the students either did not buy the book, they either borrowed it, this is when renting was starting to come into vogue, or they just plain didn't buy it because it was too expensive. And even the students who had gotten the book weren't going to keep it. Now this is a textbook that we used part of it for this course, this one semester course, had all kinds of information that would be a fantastic reference for the rest of their lives as a scientist. They weren't keeping them because they needed to sell them back so they could do things like pay rent and buy food. They weren't saying they're going to sell it back so they could go to some fancy place for a vacation. So it was very clear that these books were too expensive, and we needed something that was going to help them. And so the book we had been using was Campbell's Biology. At that time, it was about $200. I looked up how much they're charging for it now. It's $260. And I have several pictures of it because basically they come out with a new edition every couple of years because, they got to have a new edition. But we found that the content didn't change very much from semester to semester or year to year when they changed it. And so we would tell students, well, you can buy the older editions, and maybe the page numbers that you're supposed to read aren't the same. But again, as I said, they weren't buying this book. Whereas the OpenStax biology book is free online. There's a number of different ways. They could read it online, they could download a PDF. They also have other formats so they can read it in basically any type of reader that they want to use, whether it's an Android device, an Apple device, whatever. Or they could order a hard copy. If they didn't want to download the PDF and print off a few pages at a time, they could get the book downloaded as a hard copy from the bookstore for about $50. Okay, so just like the regular textbook gets updated every couple of years, the thing that I found really interesting about the OpenStax book is if I was going through it and I found a big typo, I could contact them, and it's online. They could make these changes very quickly, very easily. So it's certainly as updated as any of the others. Looking at the content in the books, they're pretty much the same. So I thought that the quality of the book was very good, and it was working. And so I actually first was starting to use it because I got involved with the California Open Educational Resources Project. And about 2014, I did an online review of the textbook. And that's where I was like, covering the same topics, covering about the same depth. And in fall of 2015, I participated in their pilot project where I used the OpenStax biology book, but I also used a sapling homework program. So if you're familiar with the sapling homework programs, these are programs where the students access them online and they get questions about the topics. They're interactive, so if they get the question wrong, what was really nice about it is when they got the question wrong, they pointed them back to the OpenStax biology book. And so it was a good mesh between those. Now, because I did two things at the same time, I can't say it was the book or the homework program, but exam grades went up by 10%. Okay? So partly maybe because they were working with the material more with the sapling homework, maybe because they were actually looking at that textbook, and they weren't, refusing to buy the book or saying, I'm going to come and use it in the reserve stacks and fight with, 200 other students who are trying to use the same book. Okay. And then I was going to talk to you about the portfolios, but I see they're on the back of the room there. We can talk about it later, but all the information was up there. But I thought it was a great solution, and again, I think because it was less expensive, students actually used it, they got hold of it. And by the way, I want to say that when my niece started college 3.5 years ago, they went to the bookstore. Her books would have been $2,000 that first semester. Yeah. So fortunately, her parents said, no, we're not going to do this, and they went off and they did all those crazy things that you do looking on different sources. But yeah, the books are really expensive, and this is a good thing.